Good morning. Appreciate it. I know it was a little slick for some of you getting here this morning with the weather, impending weather. As the storm begins to intensify and we begin to see the impacts here locally, we felt it was more than appropriate to get together some of the bigger players in the community to talk about impacts, preparedness, and safety. Right out of the gate, regardless of whether you're calling this thing a hurricane, a tropical storm, don't let the, semantics or vernacular fool you. This thing is, still a powerful storm and has the potential to do some considerable damage here locally. So don't get caught into this zone of comfort or complacency. And I think that's what we really want to underscore this morning. Couple of housekeeping matters before we introduce what we have. We have a pretty considerable lineup this morning to talk about impact and services. Anyone with information or needing information, constant real-time updates should use their devices and text 888-777. Put in the words SHARMEC and you'll get updates continually with any kind of service impacts or breaking news and developments. CharlotteNC.gov. Probably one of the better areas to go for up-to-date information on that website. They continue to keep that up-to-date, and we'd really encourage the community to go off in that direction. I mentioned that lineup this morning. You'll see some familiar faces to my left here, maybe some faces that aren't so familiar but should be, because they've done a tremendous work in putting this operations plan together in an effort to keep our community a safe community. To my immediate right, your left, Mayor Vi Lyles. This morning she's going to follow me, followed by City Manager Marcus Jones, Fire Chief Reggie Johnson, CMPD Police Chief Kerr Putney. We've got the Director of Charlotte Department of Transportation, Liz Babson, followed by Duke Energy Representative Martha Thompson, Angela Broom-Pally. She's the Regional CEO of American Red Cross. She's going to talk about impact when it comes to sheltering and assistance in that regard. Without further delay, Mayor Vi Lyles.
Good morning, everyone. It's been a long night. It's actually been a very long week. We don't know what's going on all the time. But today we're in the planning stage for really adjusting to the new schedule for the tropical storm. First of all, I want to thank the hundreds of Charlotteans who have worked overnight, including you guys, so that we can be protected, we can have people available, and that we're able to be in our homes. So for our police officers, firefighters, emergency management crews, electrical line workers, and to you, your sacrifice has not gone unnoticed and is greatly appreciated. You're going to hear more about a weather update and reports of damage later in this briefing. But I want to say this right now. Our focus is to ensure all residents and businesses are prepared for what we continue to expect from this tropical storm. We're working with our partners, those who are essential to this work, and the entire region to ensure we come together so that we plan appropriately and take action as needed. This storm response is what we are about. It is about our city coming together so that we can accomplish what's necessary so that everyone in this community can be safe. So we need you to continue to work with us. Stay updated. You heard some of the links on the website, charlottenc.gov. Hurricane Florence has brought not just Charlotte together, but we are grateful that we have brought the entire North Carolina community together. So we are thinking about our friends and relatives and citizens that live on the coast. So what we want to do is always remember to do our best work at this time when we may have some of the most difficult challenges ahead. And with that, I'd like to introduce our City Manager, Marcus Jones.
So thank you, Mayor. It's very interesting that when you see a police car go down the street or a fire truck or maybe even a transportation vehicle, their various logos, those logos go away. It's one team, and it's Team Charlotte. And Team Charlotte goes much beyond departments. It goes much beyond the city of Charlotte. It's the region, and it's beyond the region. So I'm very proud of what the team has done. In terms of my dynamic duo, Chief Johnson and Chief Putney, who will come up next, they have really had a public safety lens. And from about a week ago, as we started to think about this particular weather event, so very proud of what the team has been able to do. Pam Weidman and Willie Ratchford have really got into the community. We haven't made an assumption that everybody is high-tech. We've knocked on doors. We've handed out flyers. So it's been a team effort. I'm very impressed with what our partners have done, including the faith-based community, how they're reaching out and taking that same message and providing it to the individuals across the city. Liz Babson, who will speak later, as well as Mike Davis and Victoria Johnson, as we have moved from the planning stage to the response stage, again, we have the best team that's assembled. So with that said, very proud of what the team has done to this point. We have to continue to be diligent, and I'd like to turn it over to Chief Johnson, who wears a couple of hats, not just the fire chief, but our Homeland Security Director. Chief Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Good morning. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management Office has been working all week preparing for this storm and implementing our emergency operations plan. They've coordinated with city, county, state, federal, and other stakeholders such as Red Cross, the utilities, Hospital Alliance, to be prepared for this storm and to implement the plan. In regards to the weather, we are still expecting possible record rainfall here in the city. So whether the storm has been downgraded to a tropical depression does not mean that eases the danger for our citizens in the city and the county. Please be prepared. We've talked a lot of safety messages, and they're still available on the websites if you need to get that information. We're expecting anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of rain, which, like I said before, could break a record here in the city. We will still have wind gusts to 30 to 45 miles per hour, which will more than likely bring down trees, which will cause power outages. We've been saying that all week. Be prepared for 3 days without power, making sure you have water, non-perishable food, and make sure you take care of your pets as well. We have swift water assets, 2 teams, and 1 urban search and rescue team that is still on standby here for county response, with the anticipation that later on this evening and through tomorrow, when the storm gets the worst, we'll be able to respond with additional resources. In regards to the Charlotte Fire Department, we've upstaffed a number of units, and we are prepared to respond with our own operations plan. With that, I will turn it over to Chief Putney.
Morning. We continue to monitor with our partners that you'll see today the impact of this tropical storm as it comes our way. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department opened our command center about 6 o'clock this morning. We'll continue operations 24 hours until we have some resolution here. We continue to work with our partners on the local, state, and federal level. This is a partnership. We couldn't do it without our partners. We've modified our shifts, so at any given time, you have 50% of all the resources we can put out on the street available. And we feel very comfortable that we can handle anything that comes our way. We continue to manage any emergency needs that come our way. Please use 911 for emergencies. I keep saying this is the time for the next 2 days to stay in your house and spend time with your family. The other issue that we have is make sure you know when to use 911. If there's a tree that falls on the street or in your house, yeah, you need to call 911. If you have an emergency that needs emergency attention, call 911. Otherwise, we have 311 that is staffed for non-emergencies. The main player in all of this is Liz Babson, and I'll get out of her way and let her give you all the answers that you're seeking.
Thank you. As the chief said, I'm Liz Babson. I'm the director for the Charlotte Department of Transportation here in the city. I want to ensure you that we are working closely with our partners, as you've heard repeated from several others. Partnerships are important in responding to a storm like this, and we're working closely with the North Carolina Department of Transportation to make sure that we provide a seamless response to any downed trees or obstructions in the roadway during this storm. As the storm moves in, I assure you our crews have been hard at work and will continue to be hard at work to keep the streets clear to ensure the safety of our residents and people traveling on the streets throughout the city. We serve a city of over 300 square miles. We have a pretty big system that we're responsible for, and we are doing everything that we can to stay on top of that and make sure that we are prioritizing safety for our residents. But as you've heard from the chief previously, we really encourage people, if you don't need to drive, don't get out on the streets. The conditions aren't bad at this point, but they will continue to get worse. And we make that recommendation simply not only for your safety, but also for the safety of the people that are out there working to try to keep the streets clear. If you must travel, remember that power outages also can affect traffic signal operations. So there's a couple of key points that you need to remember. If a signal is dark, or if you see flashing red, treat it like it's a stop sign from all directions. Stop before you proceed with caution. If you see flashing yellow on the traffic signal, treat it very cautiously as well. Slow down as you approach that intersection and proceed with caution. And again, just want to encourage everybody to stay off the streets as much as possible. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Martha Thompson with Duke Energy.
Good morning, everyone. Duke Energy realizes that the power infrastructure is very important for this point in time. We take it for granted sometimes when we flip the switch, and certainly when it's out for any period of time. We have approximately 11,000 homes, who are currently without power now. But let me emphasize, we are just getting started with this storm. We have been working diligently for the entire week in preparations. We do expect between 1 and 3 million customers for Duke Energy to be without power in our Carolinas. We have staffed in this local area, tripled our staff to bring in people to restore, from damage assessors to tree crews, and our line and service who have come in from the Midwest and from Florida and from a lot of states. We are now staging at Carowinds and at the Motor Speedway. We have hundreds and thousands of trucks who are there and people who are waiting to go out and restore power as quickly as they come on, as the power goes off. Let me do emphasize and say that because of OSHA regulations, we cannot be in buckets above 30 miles per hour. It is unsafe for our crews to do that. We can't drive the big boom trucks when it's 39 miles an hour, and that's when the wind is blowing at a sustained speed. I say that to let you know that safety is important to us, not only for our crews, but for each of you and for all of our residents in this area. Please know that what that means is the storm may be passing and we may not be able to get to you. We cannot do it until it's safe to do. Please be patient. 1-800-POWER-ON. Please call us if you see lines down or if you have outages. There's a lot of ways to get in touch with us, and we send out that information. Also, we have a lot of rain that will be coming. Those of you who live on the rivers and the lakes and you are in a flood-prone area, and likely you know who you are, please adhere our emergency management professionals when they tell you to evacuate. I'd like to turn it over now to our strategic partner, the Red Cross.
Good morning. We work with our community and government partners year-round to prepare for times like this. The Red Cross has 5 shelters open in Mecklenburg County with over 420 residents currently. We have 100 volunteers on the ground, local and from as far away as South Dakota. Those shelters will remain open as long as they need to be, and there is still plenty of capacity in those shelters. If you need to know where a shelter is located, you can download the Red Cross app, which will show you all shelters available in the state of North Carolina and neighboring states. Heed the warning of your elected officials and your emergency management partners. They have given you advice about sheltering in place, staying where you are. If you need assistance, call 911 if there is an emergency. I'll turn it back to you, Rob.
You know, I announced that lineup earlier this morning, and one of the people I forgot is an important person, and has become somewhat of a media darling since earlier this week when he spoke directly to 2 members of our Spanish-speaking community. I want to bring in Carlos Rodriguez. He's with the Charlotte Fire Department, just to speak directly to members of our Spanish community, just some safety, some preparedness, and some relevant information that we have to get across. Carlos.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Carlos Rodríguez, soy un bombero con la ciudad de Charlotte. La cosa que estamos hablando de ahora es la lluvia que viene. Hay chance que cogemos 12 pulgadas de agua, con eso viene la pesa en las matas y hay chance que se caen a los palos de electricidad. Si eso pasa, por favor, llama al 911. También, si quieres que te mandamos información muy importante durante todo esto, tenemos un sistema por texto mensaje. El número es 888-777. Manda el texto CHARMEC, CHARMECK. Gracias.
I have the slightest idea of what the man said, but it just sounded beautiful. I think we'd all agree. We're going to keep Carlos and all of our folks here available for one-offs. And before we open up the questions to the floor, just a couple of, there were some questions about what kind of impacts we're seeing here locally from a public safety standpoint. Been told that since midnight of this morning, we've had 9 vehicle wrecks on our roadways involving injuries, 20 vehicle wrecks, non-injury related. So, fair question is how did that stack up to a normal time frame when we aren't in the throes of a storm? Actually, we're down, which is encouraging to hear. I mean, 1 wreck is one too many, especially when you're talking about a wreck involving an injury. But it seems as though the word's getting out. The advice is being taken to stay off the roads, and that's some sage advice. The roads are going to get treacherous, as Chief Johnson had mentioned earlier. What we are seeing, though, since midnight, we have 24 blocked roads with either debris or some other type of obstruction. So we're starting to see it. We're starting to see the impact. Please continue to urge viewers, listeners, community members to refrain from getting out on the roads unless it's an absolute emergency, because it's going to get treacherous out there. I want to go ahead and open the floor up to questions for anyone that we have in the room. And if anyone's interested in advancing any one-offs or one-on-ones, we'll facilitate that in the lobby. We want to get this room operational again, and it's going to start ramping up considerably in the coming hours. Questions?
Saw quite a few trees falling yesterday. Have there been any damages to homes? Do you have a count of the number of damages to homes or injuries related to maybe trees falling?
I'm not aware of any incidents where we've had trees onto any homes at this point in time or injuries.
Anyone for the fire chief, police chief, CDOT director, city manager, mayor.
Yeah, Chris Philadelphia Bloomberg News. At what point do you expect the flooding to be worse right now? And do you have any idea of what time that's going to be?
From our last weather report, we were told that the worst of the storm will be probably this afternoon, this evening, through tomorrow. So we would anticipate that to be the case. The term that was given or used by the meteorologist was basically a fire hose over the city of Charlotte, no pun intended. But that's what we're looking at. And with 8 to 12 inches, we're talking about record rainfall here. So areas that aren't used to flooding, we may actually see flooding. I believe it was mentioned earlier, if you are in one of those floodplains and you know that you typically get a flood or that type of event during just a typical thunderstorm, then expect to see that and then some.
Are you expecting to issue any evacuation orders for any particular neighborhoods or streets or parts of the town?
The Emergency Management Office, the EOC, is currently, they have a critical infrastructure position in place, and their job is to stay in touch with those facilities that have been identified as possibly being in that flood zone. And so we have monitors to allow us to see when the water is rising, so we'll have early notification. Once we're notified, we'll send units out to verify, and then we can come up with an evacuation plan at that time. We do have resources prepared for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we good? All right. We will facilitate any one-offs in the lobby, and we have public affairs staff to get that taken care of. Just see them on the way out, and we appreciate it. Stay safe, everyone.